Hi, my name is Kirsten. Welcome to my channel. I have been living in Spain for 6 years. I am a freelance writer and a travel coach, helping people to figure out the financial aspects of moving and living abroad. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about 6 things that I wish I knew before coming to Spain that kind of gave me a little bit of a cultural shock and also just kind of made my first couple of months a little bit harder than they should have been. But nonetheless, I survived, and I hope that this information will help you if you are moving to Spain or coming to visit Spain. So the first thing I wish I knew before moving to Spain is the temperature or the weather. Specifically the temperature. And you're probably thinking, Kirsten, why didn't you look up what the weather was like when you moved to Spain? I did. I knew that it was going to be cold, or that it gets cold in certain parts of Spain. I was prepared for that. I was not prepared for the temperature that is inside the apartment. And so what do I mean? I talk about this a little bit in one of my other videos about the pros and cons, but the temperature outside of the apartment and the temperature inside of your apartment are going to vary drastically throughout the year. And the reason being is that a lot of the apartments, not all, but a lot of the apartments or homes in Spain are not insulated. So for a greater part of the winter, I will keep my jacket on 24/7 because I will come from outside when I'll need a jacket and it's cold, and I'll go inside and it's also cold. So I'm usually, luckily now, since moving in with my partner, we live in a house where the temperature is regulated. But my first couple of years in Spain, I was in layers, constantly in layers, in the house. So if you come to Spain in the winter, be prepared for that. Of course, there is heating. But because of no insulation, if you turn off the heating or if you turn off the air condition, the temperature change gets sucked right out. The heat gets sucked right out. So that's something that I kind of wish I was prepared for. And for like my first 4 years or 5 years, it seemed like every winter I was buying something new, some piece of fluffy clothing, warm sweaters, overalls or something, not overalls, fuzzy pajamas or anything just to help me stay warm while I was inside my apartment. So this tip is especially for anyone that is moving to Spain, but I think I really wish I had blocked out days just to focus on bureaucracy, because the bureaucracy here can be very slow. It can be confusing. You're going to need a lot of patience. And when you think that you have a lot of patience, like double that patience, because you're going to need a little bit more. And if you're trying to, apply for your residency card, or if you're trying to do, look for an apartment at the same time, like it's just going to be a lot. So first things first, set up your visa stuff, set up all the bureaucratic things like getting your TIE card, getting all those things verified. Do that, focus on that, and then you can tackle like the next step of like finding an apartment or meeting new friends or things like that. So I would just really focus on getting all the bureaucracy done first, get that headache out of the way, and then you can better enjoy your new life in Spain. Going along with like bureaucracy is just understanding the different business hours of things and kind of really organizing my day around the Spanish schedule. So Spanish schedule, a lot of businesses, depending on where you're at, in bigger cities this might change, but in smaller cities, some businesses don't open until like 9 or 10 in the morning, and then a lot of businesses will close midday for siesta, and then they'll open in the evening. And so I, coming from the United States, from California, thinking that, things are open for most of the day, I was wrong. And so I wish I would have planned out my days better in the beginning in my first couple of years here, because I would get so frustrated when I'd want to, get a bunch of things done early in the morning or get things done midday, and I couldn't because businesses were not open. Now I've learned to adjust to that, but it is something that I wish I would have better planned for when I first moved to Spain. If you're finding this video helpful or interesting or entertaining, make sure that you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to know more about what it's like living in Spain. The next thing that I wish I had learned about or just did more research before coming to Spain. Also, a reminder, if you're coming to Spain, please do your research and then do more research. Even when you think that you've done enough research, do a little bit more, talk to people. Feel free to, if you're moving to Spain, feel free to comment below any questions that you might have, and I'll definitely reply, or I can make a video on a certain topic. But definitely there's just never enough research that you can do. An example of this is learning about the public holidays. I made this mistake when I moved to Panama, and somehow I really didn't learn my lesson. But in Panama, I remember, I think it's around November, where a lot of the national holidays are situated. So business really slows down. And in Spain, there is a lot of holidays throughout the year, which means that businesses, one, are probably not open, and two, things like public transportation might change. There's also a lot of different festivals, and this is something that I'm trying to adapt to more, because some of the festivals are really interesting and fun, but there's so many festivals throughout the year that I'm trying to catch up. But one thing, if you're coming to Spain, definitely look to see if there's any festivals during the time of your visit, because it can be a great way to explore Spain and get to know the culture in a different way. Another thing that I wish I knew before coming to Spain is just the different accents. I remember before I moved to Spain, because I was used to Latin American Spanish, that I started listening to a lot of Spanish YouTubers and trying to get used to their accents. But the one thing that I underestimated was just how different the accents are, varying for region. And this is kind of obvious, because in the United States, there are so many different accents from California to New York to the Midwest. But even though Spain is a lot smaller, accents can really vary depending on the region. So definitely, if you're someone that is coming to Spain and you're learning Spanish, even if you are fluent in Spanish, or if it's your native language, I really suggest looking up the accents, especially if you're coming to Andalusia, because in Andalusia, there's Spanish, obviously, but there's also Andalus, which is a sub-language, a dialect, essentially, of Spanish. I'm not sure if dialect is the correct word, but yes, there are lots of different phrases that you're not going to learn from a normal Spanish class or Duolingo. So the last thing that I wish I knew before coming to Spain was really what long-term residency looks like and what it takes to live here long-term. As I mentioned, I've been here for 6 years. Didn't plan on that before I came to Spain. I think I kind of just wanted to come, try it out, see what it was like, and then 6 years later I'm still here. So knowing a little bit more about that process, I don't even know if that would have scared me away from staying in Spain for as long as I have, or if it would have made me more prepared. I don't know. But essentially, long-term residency, when I first moved to Spain, before the digital nomad visa, obviously now the digital nomad visa is an option for long-term stay, because I think you get 3 years and then you can renew, is an option. But before that, options were pretty much being an autonomo, which is something that I am now, which gives me short-term residency. But that also requires, changing my tax status. It also requires a lot of jumping through a lot of hoops and jumping through a lot of hoops and figuring out a lot of things, and paying into, the tax system and Social Security and things like that. So I think that if you are someone that wants to come to Spain for long term, look into the digital nomad visa, but also look into, what do you want your long term options to be. Yeah. Well, I hope that you found some of this information helpful. If you're planning a trip to Spain, or if you're planning to move to Spain, let me know in the comments. Let me know where you're going to go, what you plan on doing, and if you have any questions. If you want to hear more stories about Spain and you like to read, then you can check out my Substack, linked in the description below. Also, I mentioned before, I am a coach helping people figure out the financial aspects of moving and living abroad. And if you want more insights on how to manage your money better, especially if you want to move abroad to travel, how to save up to travel, things like that, then you can sign up for my email list, also linked in the comments below. And if you want to just know more about the ins and outs about living abroad, and you want something to help keep you motivated as you pursue your dream to live abroad, then you can check out my ebook, So You're Inspired Now What, also linked in the description. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you next time. Ciao for now.